the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, a deep dive into Revelation's harbingers.
The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse are a significant and famous part of the book of Revelation in the New Testament. They appear in chapter 6 when the Lamb of God opens the first 4 of the 7 seals on God's book, heralding the impending tribulations upon humanity. These 4 horsemen symbolize conquest, war, famine, and death. The White Horseman Conquest. The first horseman rides a white horse, often seen as a symbol of conquest and warfare, according to Revelation 6:2. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. The white horseman carries a bow, representing power and authority. This conquest does not necessarily imply violence, but the imposition of power over others. An intriguing story related to the White Horseman is about the expansion of the Roman Empire. In the 4th century, Emperor Constantine saw a sign in the sky before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, which he believed was a symbol from God. This battle not only determined Constantine's fate, but also changed the course of Christian history. Before the battle, Constantine had a vision or dream of a cross in the sky, accompanied by the words, "In hoc signo vinces," in this sign, "You will conquer." Constantine instructed his soldiers to paint the cross on their shields and banners, and in a decisive battle, he emerged victorious against his rival, Maxentius. Following his victory, Constantine became the sole ruler of the Roman Empire and issued the Edict of Milan, officially ending the persecution of Christians and recognizing Christianity as the empire's official religion. The image of the White Horseman can be likened to Constantine, who conquered and expanded his power under the sign of God, bringing a new order and peace to the Roman Empire. The Red Horsemen War. The second horseman rides a red horse, symbolizing war and conflict, according to Revelation 6:4. Revelation 6:4. Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. The red horse and the large sword represent bloodshed and conflict, signifying the destruction and violence that will brings. A story related to the Red Horsemen can be the Crusades, a series of religious wars during the Middle Ages. The First Crusade began in 1096 when Pope Urban II called on European kings and knights to wage war to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. The Crusades lasted over 200 years, bringing countless deaths and destruction. These wars not only caused material damage, but also left deep scars in the souls of those involved and affected. The image of the Red Horseman symbolizes the bloody conflicts and devastation that war brings. One notable story about the brutality of the Crusades is the siege of Jerusalem in 1099. The Crusader armies attacked and captured the city after a bloody battle, killing thousands of people, both soldiers and civilians. This event illustrates the cruelty and bloodshed of religious wars, where peace is removed and violence reigns. The Black Horseman Famine. The third horseman rides a black horse, symbolizing famine and food scarcity, according to Revelation 6:5-6. Revelation 6:4, when the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures, saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. The scales represent strict food rationing and severe famine, where food becomes scarce and expensive. In history, many examples of famine exist, but one of the most notable stories is the Great Famine in Ireland in the 19th century. Potatoes, the staple food for the Irish population, were struck by blight, leading to severe food shortages. Millions of people either died of starvation or emigrated in search of a better life. The Great Irish Famine, also known as the Potato Famine, 1845 to 1852, caused a humanitarian disaster. The Black Horsemen's scales symbolize the injustice and suffering that famine brings to humanity. During this time, potatoes, the primary food source for the Irish, were infected with a fungus-like organism called Phytophthora infestans, causing widespread crop failures. The British government faced heavy criticism for its slow and inadequate response to the famine. Instead of providing immediate relief, they continued exporting food from Ireland to Britain, worsening the situation. The image of the Black Horseman with the scales reflects the ruthless and unfair food distribution, causing immense suffering and death for millions. The Pale Horseman death. The fourth horseman rides a pale horse, symbolizing death, with Hades following close behind. According to Revelation 6-8. Revelation 6:5-6, I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. The Pale Horseman represents large-scale death, not only through war and famine, but also through disease and wild animals. A story related to the Pale Horseman can be the Black Death, one of the most devastating pandemics in human history. In the 14th century, the Black Death killed millions of people across Europe, wiping out up to 1/3 of the population. Death spread everywhere, bringing terror and despair. The Black Death, or bubonic plague, began in 1347 and lasted until the early 1350s. The cause of this pandemic was the bacterium Yersinia pestis, transmitted from rodents to humans through fleas. The disease spread rapidly through cities and villages, causing an extremely high mortality rate. One notable story from this period is about the city of Florence, Italy. Florence, one of the cultural and economic centers of medieval Europe, was severely devastated by the plague. The city became a land of death, where people died en masse, streets were filled with corpses, and despair engulfed everyone. The image of the Pale Horseman with death and Hades following behind is a powerful representation of the destruction that a pandemic can cause. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are not just symbols of calamities, but also serve as warnings about humanity's vulnerability to major upheavals. They remind us of the necessity for patience, steadfast faith, and preparedness in the face of adversity. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are powerful and haunting symbols, conveying profound messages about humanity and the world. Their stories and symbols have profoundly impacted culture, religion, and history. When creating a video on this topic, incorporate historical, religious, and cultural elements to craft a compelling and profound story that captivates viewers and conveys an important message.